Welcome to round 4 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast for the week of June 22nd. I'm Terry Morrow, and I'm here with Nicole Eridix.
Hello.
And Catherine Halecko.
Hello.
As moms of teens and young adults, we've survived those little kid days, yet we're still rethinking the decisions we've made all through our kids' lives and worrying about what's going on right now. Today's Thursday, which means it's time to give in to our obsessing. And today we're obsessing about what we used to think was fancy when we were kids and what our kids might think of as fancy today. This is based on a Twitter thread we saw via Design Mom.
That's where I saw it originally. She mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to think. I don't think my kids have any conception of fancy. I don't know what they would say for this, but boy, I remember when I was a kid going out to dinner with my parents, and you know, they would always have a couple of drinks before dinner, so I had a lot of time on my hands. And the butter pats on ice in the middle of the table, that was super fancy. And I would eat them I would sneak a couple with my Shirley Temple. And they were there as my little snack. So I think of that as a fancy thing. I don't think you get those anymore. You just get the foil wrapped ones, but.
Yeah.
Or the tiny little plastic tub that you have to peel open.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Not the same. These were just slabs of butter on ice, waiting to be spread on your fancy breadstick or roll, or just to go right into your tummy if you were a 5-year-old who was bored. They were tasty. Explaining perhaps weight problems I had in early childhood. But how about you guys? What did you, I'm going to think of some more things, but what did you think was fancy when you were a kid? And do your kids have any conception of such? Catherine?
Well, for me, it was definitely like anytime the actual glassware came out instead of drinking out of plastic cups and eating. And I mean, we used to eat cereal out of empty margarine tins, like,
oh my goodness,
like the plastic margarine bowls. Like, I remember that so well. And I'm like,
your mom was the OG recycler.
Seriously, like we were not, you know, desperate for money. So, you know, it wasn't like we were rolling in it either, but I just look back, I'm like, why did we not have any bowls? Why were we eating out of margarine tubs? But anyway, but we did have these, like, they look like crystal glasses, but they really weren't. They weren't like super thick and heavy glass. They weren't fragile or anything. But if we would have like family over for dinner or whatever, and we would use those for our milk, that was very fancy for sure.
Wow. Special occasion.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. I mean, we certainly had when my mom's china came out, that was super fancy. Right. That was on like Thanksgiving and Easter and whenever we had the cousins over.
And just eating in the dining room, you know, was fancy because we always ate in the kitchen. So with my kids, we ate in the dining room quite a lot before we redid our kitchen because we really didn't have enough room in the kitchen. So I don't think that they would think that the dining room is very fancy.
The dining room is where you pile things up, basically, in our house.
The dining room is where I work.
Yeah.
So, but I used to, when we ate in there all the time, I used to, you know, have to make a special effort to clear out my junk every day. So.
Right.
That is not fun.
I think for my kids, like, fancy is clothing. Like, you know, not wearing, you know, if it's a special occasion, what denotes a special occasion might often be what you're wearing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I seem to remember when I was a kid, like a fancy dress involved petticoats.
Mm-hmm.
Was that still a thing am I that old? I believe I'm that old. Very small child, but you had to have the big puffy skirt. That's
starchy crinolines and scratchy stuff.
Yeah, I think it was just like a little extra layer beneath the dress to make it poof out. Little petticoat layer. So that was fancy.
Well, a lot of our fanciness revolved around food,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of, my mom had a very, specific, non-taste bud inviting,
You're being very diplomatic.
style of cooking. and and it was very, Eurocentric.
Mhm.
So anytime we had something like spaghetti or lasagna or,
Ooh.
if she made fried rice or if anything that came from another type of cuisine, that was
Mhm.
fancy. We knew
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Like my mom was going all out. And so that to us was fancy. And then the other thing that one of my friends, her dad always seemed to have the latest model car, like the latest and greatest type of car. And I remember they loved to drive Lincolns. So every couple of years, her dad would have a brand new Lincoln in the driveway. And I remember, cause my dad drove one of those big old station wagons, from like the Brady Bunch days.
Mhm.
And, so, her car had power windows and a fancy dashboard and leather seats and it was the size of a boat and it was very fancy. So yes, those two things really stick out in my mind. And as far as my kids, they really don't care about vehicles. We eat a lot of different types of food, so food is not a signifier of anything special. But they would probably say like electronics would be
Oh.
an indicator of something that's kind of expensive and high end. So whether it's like a guitar for my son or the latest iPhone or the latest, the laptop or, now it's lighting for social media posts. So now that's what their marker of fancy is.
Yeah.
So,
My son would probably consider whatever generation of iPhone is better than his to be fancy. Why can't I have the fancy one? We are plain people, son. We don't go for the fancy. Be glad you have a phone at all.
It's just, I think it's interesting when you just read through that Twitter thread that I think going out to eat used to be such a different thing than it is now, right? I mean,
yes. Yes.
yeah,
Absolutely.
We're so accustomed, and our kids, I think, are so accustomed to getting, whether it's takeout or going and sitting somewhere. It's definitely not the way it was when we were kids.
No. Yeah.
That's a really good
It
point.
was a big deal.
I think also, I imagine this is true of most parents now. When we go out to eat as a family, everything is very tailored around the kids. Where's a place the kids will be comfortable? Where's a place that my son won't make too much noise? We're going to eat, and then as soon as the kids are done, one of us is going to take them out. And then, whereas when I was a kid, like I was saying, my parents would have their 2 cocktails and their dinner and their coffee after, and I was, by the end, was rolling around underneath the table. Nobody cared.
Right.
It was not about me. It was, they were going out to dinner, and this time I could go.
Right.
So that's a real, and I think that therefore you think of those things as grown-up fancy events that you were just privileged to tag along to, as opposed to, we just went out. We all went out to dinner as a family equally.
Yeah. And
we were more important than the parents. So.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Was there a time when they thought podcasts were fancy?
Well,
I'm going to turn on my phone.
Now they're
listen
just,
to people talk.
They're
Now
so mainstream. But you know what? Ours still sticks out.
Absolutely.
It's definitely.
We are the heavy crystal glasses of podcasts.
There you go.
We are the slabs of butter on
the
ice
butter
podcasts.
We are the lasagna of podcasts.
Yes, we are.
And you can get many more slices of that.
All the lasagna you can eat, folks.
Anyway.
On the good chunk.
Yes. Well, that's it for today's Round 4. Tune in tomorrow when we'll share our roundabout roundup of things we've been using or enjoying lately that we think deserve a shout out. Find all our episodes at parentingroundabout.com and talk back in the comments there, on our Facebook page, or on Twitter, where you'll find us at Roundabout Chat.